I'm joined right now by extra senior correspondent Mona Kosar Abdi, and she's been following this case every single day, and we're going to get some reaction about the entertainment community. Mona, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Is there a certain prevailing trend among the entertainment community that you're hearing in response to this verdict?
I think it's too early right now to hear the responses, but what we do know is immediately once it was clear that Diddy was under investigation, I think actually before then, when we saw Cassie Ventura's lawsuit and read some of the disturbing allegations that she made against Diddy, and then there was that hotel attack video that we saw that was really disturbing, a lot of people started distancing themselves from the mogul. And this was somebody who, you know, through some of the most lavish A-list Hollywood parties where anyone from Donald Trump to Leonardo DiCaprio to the who's who of Hollywood used to attend, but nobody seemed to come to his defense. The only person towards the end was Kanye West, who actually made an appearance and tried to get into the courtroom during one day of the trial, but it seemed like a lot of people were just silent and, if anything, distancing themselves from Diddy.
And he's somebody, he was a celebrity. There's many famous movie stars, but you don't see them out at clubs or famous restaurants or out at these big events, these big award shows and that type of event. Were you surprised by how quickly he was shunned by the A-listers?
I was, because this is someone who has made a big impact. He made careers as well. His name is attached to the Notorious B.I.G., to 112, to Mary J. Blige. He also made hits with like Mariah Carey. So he was someone who was a hit maker, who was associated to a lot of celebrities and was buddies with Jay-Z. He was at the Rock Nation brunches with Jay-Z regularly. And so to see immediately that nobody was willing to come to his defense. But I think there were rumors for a long time that he was an eccentric figure and that people did not want to excuse his behavior, but he was somebody to know at the time.
And did you get a sense that some of the people in the entertainment, some of the A-listers, B-listers, or even C-listers or whatever, maybe were looking at their own behavior, taking a second look after these charges, going, wait a minute, if they can go after somebody of that stature, I mean, a billionaire, one of the most famous men in the world, they can go after anybody.
Yeah, so a lot of, it was the defense's angle definitely to say that the prosecution was overstepping. The government was putting crime scene tape in his bedroom. They also mentioned that there was another rapper who the woman who was going by the pseudonym Jane was familiar with. They said he's another big rapper who was into that lifestyle. And that's how the defense was categorizing that this is a lifestyle. He was into the swingers lifestyle and he had non-conventional sex. But that shouldn't mean that the government should go into his bedroom and put crime scene tape, and they kept saying that he was overstepping. And so I do think that if he was convicted of the sex trafficking charge, that it might put a lot of people on alert about, well, what if I was flying in someone or having threesomes? But I think there was a lot more to it and a lot more that the prosecution was using to support their case. But like you said, it did definitely ring bells in Hollywood.
And then a lot of people, too, once that video was released and the world saw that Cassie beating video, even though those weren't specific charges to this case, it was a very important building block for the prosecution. But was there a sense people were just like, okay, that does it. All the stuff I've been hearing is true.
Yeah, which is why I think that even though now he has been acquitted of 3 of the serious charges, and he's still convicted, he's still looking at some serious prison time, I don't think that Hollywood is going to be welcoming him with open arms, because that video was so disturbing and so brutal, and the defense didn't really have a defense for him. They said, listen, we know he's not a good person sometimes, that he was violent towards Cassie, that he was abusive. Their argument was that that doesn't mean that he's guilty of RICO and sex trafficking, but he still has to answer to that. And we all saw that video, and his apology video that he made after the video was released fell flat. And so that's why I think that regardless of the outcome or when he is released, I don't think Hollywood is waiting with open arms for him.
And then what about you're a journalist, but there were so many stories, so much on, I call it the social media tsunami beforehand, of all these rumors with minors and all of these other things that were going on. Does that concern you about how that might influence people, you know, in a big case like this, where these things they're right in your face? You know, you pick up your phone and it's the first thing that pops up on your screen, whether you're following that person or subscribing or not.
Yeah, Lisa, you make a good point, because there's the court of law, and then there's the court of public opinion. And in the court of public opinion, to a lot of people, he is still guilty. And there were a lot of allegations made in the civil lawsuits that he still also has to answer to, some involving minors, some involving just different things and abuse allegations, for example. And he still has to answer to that. But right now, the big hurdle that he was trying to overcome was not spending the rest of his life in prison. And so today, the judge is weighing if he will be able to walk out of these doors out on bail. But he's still looking up to 20 years in prison. So he still has a long road ahead.
10 years maximum on each count of the transportation for prostitution.
Exactly.
But what about the family effect? Because that was something that I tried to include in my stories. And then the first time in the courtroom, I saw, the daughters are there, the sons are there, not the little baby, but and the family, the show of support. They were obviously very, well coached in terms of just people are going to be yelling at you and just don't even pay any attention to it. Just keep walking straight, keep your dignity, which they did. But just that, what effect do you think that had on the jurors? And his mother, even some of the days when no one else was there, his mother, Mrs. Janice Combs, was there, even on the 105-degree day last week. But what effect do you think that kind of show of a family around him, even despite these sensational allegations, had on the jury?
I think it had a huge effect. At one point during his closing argument, Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, pointed to the family. And he was trying to show that Diddy is not who the prosecution is painting him out to be. He is a man who helps people, that he helped people of color that worked in his businesses, was giving them opportunities, he said, before DEI was even a thing. And he said that is why his family, for example, and pointed right at them while they were sitting in the gallery, are here today supporting him because he takes care of people. And I think that really resonated with the jury. Another thing, too, is the mother of his twins and Christian Combs was brought up numerous times, his late girlfriend, Kim Porter.
Right.
And the prosecution was concerned that if the defense kept bringing her up, that the jury, in the back of their mind, would contemplate, well, the girls already lost, and mind you, they're 18 years old, they already lost their mother, and now they may potentially lose their father if he spends the rest of his life in prison. So I think that was a factor.
And that it played into that as well. And then what about in terms of women, women looking at their own behavior and this whole culture of you pay me for this or pay me for that, and we're dating, but you're paying me. What about that? And that's not just limited to hip-hop or to entertainment. That cuts across a lot of different cultures and a lot of different economic and demographics.
Yeah, there was a lot of social conversations that were going on, and this is why this case was so polarizing, right? So, for example, the defense did not hold back when it came to Jane, and they even said verbatim, Jane is a very different person than Cassie is. Mark Agnifilo said, Jane likes to do it for the gram. He said she wanted what she could get out of this relationship. He connected her to numerous famous rappers, for example.
Right.
And he kept bringing up the fact that she was jealous of women who were getting bigger Chanel bags than her.
Young Miami.
Young Miami, exactly. And that she always was would get upset with him, and most of their arguments would start from him taking another woman on a trip, for example. And so they highlighted that to show that she was a willing participant in all of this, and it was just a transactional relationship, for example.
Exactly. Well, Mona, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. Mona Kosar Abdi, I got it right, okay, senior correspondent for Extra. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your experience with us on this. We really appreciate it.